Badge is one of those subjects that a lot of leaders may be familiar with.
Back to Gilwell, happy land. I'm going to work my ticket if I can.
Yeah, those guys. Wood Badge is amazing training that a lot of adults are participating in, and it goes way back in history. It is premier training for any scout leader. If you are Cub Scout, den leader, if you're an assistant scoutmaster or a committee chair or in a crew or a ship, any of them, you need to take Wood Badge. Wood Badge is the ultimate in training, and we'll get into why. But a lot of people are just like, well, I don't know, it sounds a little strange, a little odd. Yeah, scouting can be that way, but this is leadership training, and it's for the adults. This is not for the youth. The youth have their own program that's called NYLT, National Youth Leadership Training. And it's just like Wood Badge. It's a long, week-long course, usually at a summer camp. That's usually where they do that. Wood Badge has evolved just like everything else in scouting, because this is a scouting movement, okay? Anything that doesn't change or adapt tends to go extinct, and we don't want that. It's a scouting movement. So Wood Badge is the same way. Now, Wood Badge origins start in 1919. Baden-Powell, Lord of Gilwell, that's the big thing. Gilwell Park was donated to the Scout Association, and that was a great way to have a location for adult training of outdoor skills. This was so that adults could actually learn these skills before trying to help teach them. This is a big deal, and all the leadership was expected at one point to take part in Wood Badge. Wood Badge was huge, and it has a lot of different origin stories. Everything from the beads that Baden-Powell actually recovered when he was in South Africa. Actually got these native Zulu beads that were made of a wood from a sacred tree, and that was something that was very important. And he actually had this big long necklace of these wooden beads, and those beads are what we call Wood Badge. They're the beads you see on the little leather thong. That's the little thing that's on there. Then there's different kinds of beads. You get 2 right off the bat, and you go into 3, and so on. We'll get into that. But Wood Badge has origins that go way back. Now, a lot of the training originally from way back actually was to go and actually put together a good program, an outdoor program. And from that, all the skills were learned and all these things were taught to them over a week-long period where they would learn how to build a fire, how to pitch a tent, how to clear the area to prevent fire from getting out of control. Lots of different skills that they would learn. Everything from knot tying and different things, rescue, first aid, you name it. There was a lot of skills that were being taught. And we still do that even today. So this was the very first time that adult leaders could actually attend Wood Badge and learn these skills. Now, of course, all of this was learning by doing. That was the big thing. Put up a tent. Actually put together a fire. Not only that, but a campfire program. How to set up your camp so that you can keep it clean and safe. These are skills that we do and learn because we're doing, just like the Scouts. That's the beautiful thing about Wood Badge. We do all these camp craft skills that the scouts need to also obtain, and by doing it, they learn from that. Now, scouting in the United States, they didn't have Wood Badge until 1936. That's before World War II. And that was huge. Scouting was going for quite some time. There's a war, and of course, 1936 was gearing up towards that, and they had the very first Wood Badge at Shift Scout Reservation. Then, during the war, they had several times when they could get back to that, but there was a draw on the adult leadership from the war, and so scouting kind of struggled along, and we were able to get a lot of really good quality leaders until 1948. That was really the first official Wood Badge course that was given in the United States. It was identical to the British one, only there was some adaptation, some changes had happened to that program. Now, as the American program started off, William Hillcourt, Greenbar Bill, actually was a big promoter of that training. And because of that, they focused a lot on the scout skills, so that there was opportunities for leaders to actually do the things that they want the scouts to be involved in. Anything from sharpening a knife to putting up a tent, so on. There's so many different skills, and being at that Shift Scout Reservation was awesome, because that was a premier training center in New Jersey. Now, Greenbar Bill made sure that there was training modules in the program, so that it was consistent as far as what was being taught. It also focused heavily on patrol method and patrol spirit, and all of those things were built into the program. Now, the American style or form of Wood Badge was repeatable, and it was more reliable as far as the actual program. This was something that was very written down and planned out, and because of that, it had a very structured and repeatable kind of a thing that it could actually do. Now, there was a big shift between the different theories. A lot of times it was outdoor activities and camp skills. Now, with the American variety today, it's more of a leadership theory, how to communicate, how to do the things that are needed to really be an effective leader. This is critical skills that are needed for every adult leader that wishes to have a good, wholesome scout program. It also went from managing tasks into how to manage or delegate to others on how to get those tasks completed. That's the wonderful thing about Wood Badge, is that it's more of a management training than anything else. How to manage a troop, how to keep things going. So critical that you understand that it's not just how to build a fire or sharpen a knife or an axe. It's more than that. It's the big picture. That's the big thing. Another big thing is communications. Not only speaking, but listening. Active listening is a skill. It is so important that that's a leadership basic thing. Communications is so important. The next big thing, of course, is team leadership. How to lead a team of scouters so that they can help scouts achieve their goals. so important that's a huge thing. Being able to work as a team. The communications, the team leadership, that is such a big part of Wood Badge. And another big one is the actual vision of what they want to do, what your goals are, and how to achieve those goals, how to break them down into parts so that it can be achieved. Wood Badge stopped teaching what to do and started teaching how to lead others doing it. Now, Wood Badge in the 2000s actually had a redesign. One of the big drawbacks that they did through all the studies and stuff that National does, they found that the drawback was that it required so much time from participants. Originally, back in the day, it was a week-long course. It started on a Friday afternoon or Friday morning and went all the way through to the next Friday morning. I mean, it was a full 7 days. It was very involved. In time, they broke the two pieces into 2 weekends, and they put a week in between so that there would be a little bit of timing. That made it a little more bearable. Instead of 7 days, it became 6 full days. So it was important to know that in 2000, the only thing they really did was change a lot of the scheduling, and they made it more of a module thing, whereas the first weekend was classroom and the second weekend was in the woods. So that was kind of the two things that they did. They basically cut off or shaved off about 24 hours out of the program. It was that's the thing about Wood Badge. The syllabus is very strong. It says from this time to that time you're doing that. It is very strong as far as that goes. So there are built-in breaks. They're not monsters. But it is very structured, and they were able to set it up so that it was a little more convenient to shave off a little more time on that, so that it was not as overbearing in life schedules. Now, because of that, a lot of that stuff is covered in the actual materials, so they didn't decrease the level of training to accommodate cutting off that time. They actually increased that training. So it is very good modular, corporate modular kind of learning, and it's very conducive to adults. Now, the new program also has a ticket development, like a personal goal. And this has to do with actual modules or parts, because that's where you do them all. That's where you achieve a big goal, is you have different parts. So those different parts and working out all of those parts to develop your personal goal, known as the ticket, that is a huge thing. And a lot of people make the mistakes of thinking of it as those little parts as being tickets. No, working your ticket is the thing. You're working towards your personal goal. It's a one thing, okay? So it's a ticket, not tickets. It's not plural. That's a big mind change for some people. That is one of those things. Traditions that don't change within Wood Badge. There's a lot of really good traditions that we will always keep. The Zulu wood beads that you see on the leather thong, you get 2 of those going through that problem. That's why it's called Wood Badge. So it's more than one. And that's a huge honor, and that's something that will always be there. So Wood Badge lives up to that, having those little wooden beads. They're styled from a necklace that was actually recovered in South Africa by Baden-Powell, and he used that at Gilwell. So that's another tradition. Gilwell, you will find that at every scout camp. There's a Gilwell that's there for your wood badge course. So they have a tradition that they do. There's so many things that are steeped in the scouting lore that is a big part of, and that'll always be there. Now you're going to see some of that in like the neckerchief. There will be a wooden, not a wooden, it's a woggle that is actually leather. I lost mine, so I've had to do this until I get another one. But taupe neckerchief, that's this neckerchief, and as you can see, it's got the little tartan on the back. That's a tradition. That's Gilwell. That's the Gilwell tartan on the back of that actual neckerchief. So that's a tradition that is there. The actual beading ceremony that you'll see at a round table, or you'll see at different things, and then they do a traditional song. There's a lot of core things that'll always be there. And of course, you have critters, okay? There's a huge thing in scout spirit when you've got a patrol, and that patrol spirit is there. Whether you're an owl, a bobwhite, an eagle, a beaver, the different patrols that are in there, the critters that they have. Oh my goodness, that's a huge thing in the traditions of wood badge. Those are camaraderies. Those are wonderful things. You might find out that another leader that you're working with is in the same patrol that you were in at wood badge. Not that particular year, but maybe they're both owls, or they're both foxes, or buffalo. Okay, there's different ones that would be in there, and that is a tradition that's very fun. Don't let that be the only focus, though. So you got to be careful. That patrol spirit can get out of control, so it has to be kind of reined in a little bit, and that's an important thing. And then those patrols help each other. You get into those 4 phases we talk about in National Youth Leadership Training. They come in on wood badge too. So those phases, those 4 phases that they have, so neat. You gotta go and do this. Now, wood badge has definitely evolved with time, and that's a big thing. But a lot of the core values, those don't change. Those are core things. And when you think about it, communication hasn't really changed a whole lot. So those things are still there. How to communicate, how to actively listen, how to get feedback, which is a gift, how to get that and use that to make things better. That is a huge communications thing. There's a lot of different things that go on within wood badge that are critical regardless of where you are in scouting. Whether you're a den leader, becoming an assistant scoutmaster, or going into the committee. These are things that they can actually get involved in. Scout facing, yes, but then you also have behind the scenes. So behind the scenes, there's a lot of help needed, whether it be advancement, whether it be anything to do with keeping the accounts straight, working with the equipment, quartermaster stuff. There's tons of stuff that happens in the background within a troop. And that's true for a pack too. There's a lot of stuff that needs to be done back there. So there's different realms. They can all benefit from doing wood badge. Today's wood badge is open to more scouters than ever before. It was very, in the old days, it was just for troops okay, just Scoutmasters. It was very closed in. But we have all these other trainings that do a lot of the Scout skills and the Scout things, and Woodbedge puts it together. Now, with coaching or coddling, what's the difference? A lot of times when Scouts are struggling, we as parents and as leaders, we try to help. A Scout is helpful. That's something that's natural. But maybe we should step back. Maybe we should just kind of hold a little bit and start analyzing, thinking how we not only need to help, but how we can improve the Scout. A lot of times, as Scout leaders, we think that, just have everything set up for them and they just read the script and go through the motions. That's not the best thing. We want them to learn from what they're doing. So coaching them, mentoring them is better than dealing with all the pre-setup and all that stuff and then having the Scout go through the script just to succeed by that. If they do it on their own, if they can actually put things together, a meeting, an activity, a game, if they could do that on their own, they get more out of it than just going through the motions. There are many times in scouting where there are step-by-step instructions on how to do just about everything in scouting. We always say that everything's been written down. That's true for Cub Scouts, it's true for troops and crews and so on. But sometimes there's a little bit of a gray area where Scouts can actually take on that task and get more out of it by succeeding, by not having a script, going through the process of actually putting something together. It's that simple. Now, there are ways that Scout leaders accidentally start coddling, and that's not good for the Scout. Now, one of the big red alerts is kind of muddling or changing the actual requirements for a rank advancement or a merit badge. So we need to go word for word. What it says in the book and what it says in the requirements have to be done exactly as written. That is bad. Okay, if the Scout is struggling with a requirement, they're learning. Learning is a part of struggling. It's huge. Another one is a red flag, is fixing gear or going around camp changing knots. You get this knot that was, I don't know what it was, but it wasn't what it was intended, okay? You get that knot and I have to fight the urge to untie it, unravel it somehow, and tie it the way it should be, like a taut line or a two-hitch or something like that. To actually look good, I have to fight that urge. It's an opportunity, fixing things, tents and way the things are laid out in a campsite. That's up to the Scouts to put together. That's up to them to actually go through that process. It's a learning process. And if you get into the coddling mode, you almost get into that helicopter parent, okay? Not good, not good. You got to let them fail in a safe way. Another one is, instead of listening to the Scout, you actually start talking for the Scout. That you gotta stop. That is something that's really important, to listen, actively listen, maybe repeat what they say, do that active listening thing, and let them come to the conclusion on their own, in their own mind, so they can articulate what they're trying to say about a situation or a thing that they want to convey. That is something that is really important. We have to make that possible. Ask better questions. Don't give them the answers. This is so important as a mentor, a coach to the Scouts, is to go through that process of actually listening to what they're saying and then adding in questions. It's very important that communication occurs. It's critical that they understand how, when they're asked a question, they're going to come to a conclusion and answer or something like that. Ask a simple thing like, what have you done so far? Very open question. They should be able to tell you the whole story of, well, I put the tent out and I couldn't find the poles. Well, that's a problem. You got to keep going with those questions so that you can find out what type of information they need to come to a conclusion. Now, in that case, ask the scout, what is the next step when you have no poles? Okay, that's the next thing. They need to be thinking in, A, B, C, okay, and how they can get the thing finished. These are teenagers when you're dealing in a troop. So you're dealing with a lot of things are going on. This is developmental stuff. So asking those open-ended questions and just waiting for the answer. Don't give them the answer, but just wait for it. It'll come. Now, as a scout leader, you need to tie in other scouts. No scout faces that alone. They have a buddy. They could have a buddy team. There could be 3 of them or 4. It's amazing how that structure works if you bring them in. You need to ask, who else can help you with this task? That's a great thing, okay? They bring in other people and then they can work to make a solution, to come up with a solution. Now, scouts often think that, I'm just going to put up a tent. What is that tent going to look like? Where is it going to be positioned? Where is it going to be in the campsite overall? These are simple things for us because we have begun the process with the end in mind of where it was going to be, how it's going to look, and so on. So it's important that the scout has the opportunity to communicate enough so that you get the idea of what's going to happen when this whole thing is done. In that case, they went to the group, decided that they were going to peg the tent down, and they were going to find out if there's extra poles in the troop trailer. So they went over to the troop trailer and they discovered that they had new poles, brand new poles, but they didn't know which tent needed them. So they figured it out, and they were able to get their tent off the ground and in the right space. A major problem, not being able to put up your tents. That's a problem. They solved it on their own without being given the answer. It's important to normalize the struggle. This promotes growth. That's very important when you're dealing with scouts. It's really important with Cub Scouts and even in crew and in a ship. No matter where you are in scouting, that struggle to do things is part of that growth. Struggling with a task is not necessarily a total defeat. That's the thing. Struggling is natural. It is part of growth, is being able to move forward. In fact, in the campfire chat that we do every month, we talked about the word fail is actually an acronym. Fail is the first attempt in learning. Super important to keep that in mind. Discomfort is not necessarily dangerous. Sometimes there are things that can be dangerous, but if your senior patrol leader has not planned out an activity and they are just winging it, as they say, sometimes that dead air when the scouts are staring at him or her and they don't know what to do next, that discomfort, that awkward moment, is a learning thing, okay? So we need to let that happen. it really reinforces the being prepared for the activity or being prepared for the meeting. That's the key. As a leader, we need to really focus in on those moments when they're just their comfort level is really low because they didn't prepare. They didn't do something that they should have done. That's a critical thing. Slow progress is not a sign that the scout has an inability to learn. It's very important to know that all individuals learn at different rates. Not everybody gets it right away. The first time I was shown how to tie a square knot, I couldn't repeat exactly what they did, and that's true for everyone. But eventually, with practice and practice and practice and practice, you learn those things. It's a skill. And that's the wonderful thing about being a leader. You get to see that moment when they succeed. That is a great thing. And we need to allow those moments to occur. Hey, before we go any further, I want to make sure that you know that you're personally invited to come and attend the Campfire Chat. We have a brand new one every first Sunday starting at 9 p.m. And you're welcome to join the chat room and ask questions and really get involved. Also want to thank all of the Patreon supporters of this channel. We also have a membership right here on this channel. So definitely hit the join button to get more information about joining us in supporting the ScouterStan channel. And in that, let's take a look at all of our supporters. Setting the bar, supporting that, and not lowering it on special occasion. That is super critical to understand. It's important to set the standard for all of your scouts. This is something that is expected in your role in a leadership position at camp. These are your roles of what you need to achieve. This is what you need to do. This is the bar. And having your leadership team working together, knowing that that's the level, that's the expected level, you need to make sure that all of the scouts are meeting that goal. That's the thing. If they're getting close but not making it, support, mentoring, coaching, that goes on. Then they can make that level. At no time should anybody in the team, of the leadership team, lower that bar for a scout. Unless it's extreme and understood. That's something that happens. Some troops have special needs. So there are special needs scouts that have a different bar. Not a lower bar, but a different one. That's the key. And whenever possible, it's important that your adult leadership team helps scout understand that they can break any kind of task down into small parts and then have small wins for each part, or disperse that into more teams. You could have them divide off into other groups and have more things that they could actually achieve as a team. That is great for leadership growth on the adult side and the youth side. So having that going on is critical to the success of any task that you set forward. When to step in and when not to. This is very important, and we've mentioned it before. Safety is job number one for all scout adult leaders. All scouts should adopt it too. So if they're doing something that's not safe, it needs to be addressed immediately. That's something that all of this safe failure is not good, especially on a cope course or a climbing tower or something that's inherently dangerous, firing range, whether it be archery or BB guns or 22s or any of that stuff. Safety is absolutely paramount for the leaders, and then we hope that goes over to the youth, that they too think about safety. We begin every meeting with the safety minute. We sit there for 1 minute and talk about a subject. Could be dehydration. It could be something like water safety. There's so many different things that a scout can be in trouble with. So we need to think safety constantly. So that's one of those things that supersedes all of this. It's when they're not prepared for a meeting and it's time for them to do a presentation and they have no notes, no plan, and the audience stares at them. Yeah, it gets awkward quick. So that is one of those things. Now that's not they're gonna break or something, okay? It might hurt their feelings a little bit, but it's something that they did to themselves because they didn't prepare. And as an adult leader, we need to let that failure occur. Scouting is a safe place for that kinds of failure to actually happen because we have a recovery route. We have our mentors and our coaches and people that are there for the good of the scouts to help them achieve. And we need to have those, sometimes those moments have to occur to make the point. Now we do need to make sure that the emotional stress of that is not overwhelming. It should be brief, and there should be some kind of backup there for the scout to kind of move along. It's a learning moment, and it's important to have that learning moment, but it shouldn't be scarring as far as emotional damage, okay? I'm not encouraging that at all. In fact, that would be bullying, right? So we need to make sure that there's that moment, but then that there's some kind of recovery they can go to. You know, you quickly hand them a little thing up there on the stage, and then they can read it and recover, and that way the meeting isn't a total loss. But there's a lot of counseling that goes along with that later. That is something that scout leaders can do to kind of move things forward and making sure that the scout is not having a problem with that. In fact, a lot of times scouts have anxieties we're not aware of. There might be something going on at home. There might be something going on in their lives with their friends that we need to know about. There could be some other underlying things that might be there. So we have to kind of absorb a lot of that information from the scout. And teenagers are not very good at communicating back. They tend to just kind of hold things on and, and keep it close to the vest. They don't want anybody to find out. We need to talk to them and let them talk to us. That's the important part, being that active listener. That is a great way to kind of diffuse a little bit of that stress that they self-impose a lot of times. So it's very important to understand that they have things going on too, just like everybody else in the world. But it needs to be communicated. Whenever possible, you should use youth leaders to be their coaches, their mentors. It's a lot like the leadership that's there can help the young scouts. And this could be anything from the patrol leader, the assistant patrol leader. It could be the troop guide, an instructor for the troop. These are youth leadership positions that can actually help scouts. A lot of times we instantly go to Leaderland and try to get the Scoutmaster immediately. Well, believe me, in a big camp out, if you've got a lot of scouts, that Scoutmaster is very busy. They have a lot of issues, they have a lot of directions, a lot of teams they have to work on. So to have the youth come directly to them, they often get told, ask your patrol leader, ask your senior patrol leader, ask your assistant senior patrol leader. These are positions that are youth-led for issues. They can do that. A lot of times it can be done within the team, or what I think is awesome, and it's always been in scouting, it's called the buddy system. It can be a buddy team, okay? There could be more than just two. That helps if you have an odd number of scouts, but two is the minimum, okay? Can't be a team to yourself. You can't be a buddy to yourself either. So the buddy system is a great way to work out issues, and then they can work those things, and those issues get solved without interrupting the entire group. So it's important to rely on your youth leadership and the buddy system to really iron out almost all of the issues that come up. Now, the buddy system or teams, that's not just for youth. That's for the adults too. Too deep leadership is still enforced, even though we've gone through a new youth protection training was the old stuff. Now we have safeguarding youth. That whole thing still uses buddy system and too deep leadership. Make sure that your adults have buddies, okay? Make sure they have them. That is super critical to getting that issues taken care of. If, for instance, you're on a camp out and you're doing a canoe trip, you often will have a team that's the coordinators of the equipment. You know, you have canoes and you have oars and life jackets and all that stuff that goes along with that. That team needs to work together to iron out all the logistics because, there has to be a place where you're going to put the boats back on. So there has to be an inlet and an outlet. So there's a two-part thing there. And then there's a car system of trying to get all the drivers if you have many boats. So it is something that the logistics team need to work out. And having buddies when you're dealing with adults is incredibly important. And those teams should work together. Encouragement is important, but do it without pity, okay? That's a major thing, and youth pick up on that rather quickly. Praise the effort. Don't acknowledge the excuses. It's important that continues on to the youth, that they get that idea. And this is true from adult leaders, and it's true with youth leaders, and it's true with all the scouts. Always think of it as encouragement. We need to encourage others to succeed at what they're doing. Try to prevent at any time somebody saying, well, they're not outdoor oriented, so that's why. No. If that was true, even Paul Bunyan wouldn't be able to do it, okay? Try to avoid that. That's an excuse. There's a lot of people that just say, well, I don't know how to put up a tent. Anyone can learn. That's the key. They can learn those skills. And it's important that scouts get those skills. Now, a lot of scouts that are in a troop, the teenagers, they tend to think that they can do things. In their mind, they think it's possible, but physically it's not. So it's important to have that buddy system there to say, hey, keep it in check. So that's an important thing. And a lot of times I've found that teenagers will do things because they don't want to communicate. They don't want to talk about it. They just want to do it. That can be a real problem. They need the skills to actually talk about their ideas on how to do a certain thing. So they need to communicate that verbally. That's a verbal skill that is lacking in a lot of teenagers. So it's important that you get that going. As an adult leader, you can kind of add those questions in, ask those probing questions, and have them talk back with all of that information that's so important. Because if they're saying it, they're hearing it in their mind first. So we want that. We want that communications to occur. Now, here's some thoughts that I have about this subject. Our job as adult leaders is not to make scouting easier. It's to make scouting stronger. That's a super important thing to remember. Don't be quick with an answer. Let them think. Sometimes people need time to think. Everyone's different. Some people need it right away. A lot of people need to think about the things over time. So ask those probing questions. Make sure that they are putting it all together in their mind so that they know what the conclusion that you could just tell them. Let them know that you're helping them develop and learn how to come to those conclusions on their own. Sometimes they might just want to talk to you, and this does happen over time. Once they've come up with a solution, they want to make sure that it's the right one, okay, or a safe one. So they may want to mention it to you. So don't be quick to disregard it and let them think about it and all that stuff, because they did go through that process. So you want to be able to talk to them and see what that information is in your mind so that you get the full picture. And if it's safe, let them roll with it. It's building those young people to be stronger scouts. These are skills. These are real skills. You won't get this from schools, okay? No matter where you go, this ability to think about leadership or think about how to come up with a solution, this isn't teaching them what to think. It's how to think. That's the important thing. We do that in scouting. We actually teach these skills so that scouts can actually come to a conclusion no matter what challenge is in front of them. This is a big thing. In scouting, we do a lot for our scouts, and we do all kinds of incredible trips and things, and that's a very important thing to do. But we also have to have those moments where you just kind of stop and let them think. That's the beautiful thing about it. And family camping, that's what it's all about. Last week I did a video about how important troop and crew and all the other camping adventures are important for leadership, whereas Cub Scouts wasn't part of that. There's a very good reason. Family camping has a different goal than, say, a troop camping situation. Two different things. In a Cub Scout situation, the family, the whole family, camps with the Cub Scout. That's a very important distinction between the two. Helicopter moms in a troop can be very disruptive to its goals, whereas in a Cub Scout situation, parents are heavily relied on to help reinforce that program for younger youth. The camping environment is less intimidating than, say, a troop environment would be. So it's very important that all leaders of all the different branches understand that there's a major difference between the two. We want families to be involved. We want them to go camping with their children, with the Cub Scout youth. It's so critical that they have those opportunities in a very comfortable way of camping or experiencing the outdoors. Cub Scouts are also introduced very slowly to the basic skills. The simple things. There might be something where they build a little tiny fire to burn a string between two poles. That's a skill, fire lighting skill. How to use one of them spark sticks, that kind of thing. That's a Cub Scout thing. By the time they get into a troop, it's a little more involved. Now, one of the big focuses for Cub Scout camping is the parents. The leaders, the Cub Scout leaders, are parents. Usually they are involved with the other parents that are not leader, but this is family camping. So there might be even younger people involved in the camping experience, but we want them to also have a good time with their youth, to make sure that they're having a good time and all their needs are being met. So it's a different environment completely than, say, the other types of camping that we talked about last week. Now, this is important. Don't tune out if you're not involved in Cub Scouts. If you're in a crew or a ship or a troop, don't tune out, because this is where a lot of your scouts come from. That's where they come through the ranks in Cub Scouting and move into the other units. So understanding those two big differences and where that all comes from is critical to your own success. So don't tune out because it's Cub Scouts. This is to understand the big differences between the two. The goal is introduction, not mastery of any kind of scouting skill, just to get them aware in a fun way. That's the thing about Cub camping or Cub Scout involvement in the outdoors. It's to give them the overview, the basics. That's a critical thing. We don't want to go too deep, because that would take away from the fun that really is all about Cub Scouts. Basic camping in a situation for the outdoors. That's a big thing with Cub Scouts. Want to make sure that the parents and the Cub Scout are exposed to camping in a very favorable light. That includes campfire fun, songs, and all the different skits and stuff that go on at a campfire. It's not all advancement and all the other stuff that you might have with the others. It's really just to have a good time in the outdoors. Some of the quick lessons might be on respecting the outdoors, not to litter or do anything that would be a detriment to your camping environment. Being loud and noisy late at night, those are things that Cub Scouts should be instructed on, but not overly. It's important that they're having fun and the parents are enjoying themselves. Now, in Cub Scouts, there's no such thing as a 50-mile hike, okay? That's high adventure is a wonderful thing on the older end of the spectrum. We want scouts to have fun. They might be going on a nature hike to identify wild flowers out in the woods. That might be something that's fun just to get them exposed to those ideas. They can leave their tent and go through camp. That is one of those big things that's big in Cub Scouting. Now, for most Cub Scouts, there's no patrol type activities or leadership. That is in the realm of a scout troop, not a Cub Scout pack. There's times when the Webelos or the Arrow of Lights, they might have a troop camping separately, but in the same area where they can actually go and see patrols and how that works and the patrol method and stuff like that. But it's purely a visit. It's not something that's implanted directly in Cub Scout camping. In Cub Scout camping, the Cub Scout is introduced to the outdoors. And it should be a positive thing. Whereas in a scout troop, the youth that are in there are leading others. So it's a little bit different between the two kind of camping styles. Safety rules exist for a very good reason. All of your adults' leadership should have gone through safeguarding scouting. Okay, that training that's done online, and that should be always up to date. If they're wearing a train strip, they are. So it's important that that's maintained. With that in mind, we do have girl dens, okay? They have the family oriented things, but it's all done with families. The families actually participate in the camping realm. So it's critical that safety is in mind. Make sure that the adult leaders get the proper training to do the proper things at camp. Balloon training is available throughout all the councils of Scouting America. So definitely look in your area for the correct training so that you can do these activities safely. And that's super important, super critical. That is job one of all adult leaders, is to make sure that safety is always being considered. And in that, you also have tools, age-appropriate tools. It's okay if they're using a small wooden mallet for a tent peg to put in to help dad or mom put up the tent. But, you wouldn't give them tools to clear a path with big loppers or anything like that. That's just not appropriate. So you have to keep the tools age appropriate. And that's true throughout your campsite. In Cub Scout camping, parents are supervising everything that's going on with their youth, with their children. So that's the thing about family camping. And typically it's a one-nighter. That's usually the camping experience. It's not multiple nights. That's up to the family if they want to have that experience at a campsite on their own. But for a unit, for a pack, it's usually one night. And the rest of it is done separately. So, but you got to stay within the guidelines of safe scouting. That is a critical thing. Now with Cub Scout camping, you also have a very simplified schedule. There might be 3 events, but the rest of it is open time. You need to have that open time for the age-appropriate play that might occur. We want scouts to be in the outdoors having a fun time. And Cub Scouts need to be doing that as their first experience of going camping. This might be the parents' first time too. So keeping that schedule simple. Don't try to pile in every kind of advancement you possibly ever could in every minute, okay? This isn't Wood Badge, okay? Wood Badge has a very structured schedule, okay? This is Cub Scout camping, family camping. Keep it loose. That's the thing. Always remember that Cub Scout age children have different emotional needs, different things that they may need help with. That's why it's family camping. So the family is there, and they should be relied on to assist that Cub Scout through that process of exploring the new world of the outdoors. With Cub Scout camping, you want to make sure that everybody involved is having a good time. There are councils, that there are camps that have activities. So definitely look into that. In my council, we actually have full months of activities throughout the winter season, because I'm in Florida. That's the thing. They do a lot of camping during that time, and a lot of that's set aside for Cub Scouts. So it's a big camp, so they have many things going on, but they really want to focus in on having an adventure for the Cub Scouts to do all kinds of things at the council's camp. So critically important that you take advantage of those camping experiences. The progression matters when it comes to camping. Between Cub Scouts and a troop and a crew, they're all different types of outdoor experiences. And it's important to keep them separate. There's a very specific goal. When we're talking about Cub Scout camping, we want it to be family oriented. That way it's fun and magical and special. It has to have that type of treatment. This is the first time these young people have ever slept in a tent in a sleeping bag. Ever. This is the first time. So it is critical that we think about that, and we want to make that special. They're going to have the time of their life. They're going to have a blast, okay? So it's important that that occurs. That way they have that great impression, and they'll move on to a troop, okay, that does more camping. They might do camping every month. Who knows? Now, in Cub Scout camping, please keep it simple, keep it fun, keep it magical as much as you possibly can. Parents, you're there too, so the adult leadership is going to rely on you. So definitely step up. Think about where you could help out even more in the pack. So parents need to be thinking about that. If you think that outdoor camping with Cub Scouts is no, it's actually a lot of fun, and it's meant to be that way. Let's keep it that way. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. Please put them in the comments. I read the comments, so definitely think about that. I mean, Cub Scout camping is different for a reason. Totally. And that's a good thing. So let's keep that going. Cub Scouting is so much fun, and it's meant to be that way. We want a positive experience for young people. They would never get this opportunity to go outdoors, sleep in a tent that they put up, go to a BB range. They never get that experience. Not at school. That's just not happening. So Cub Scouts is special and it's magical. So keep that in mind. And you are very magical because you're involved in scouting. Whether it be in a pack, a crew, a troop, a ship, it doesn't matter. You are special and magical to me because you keep that hard work going. You try your best to do your duty. And definitely, that is one of those things that you are a big part of. So keep up that good work. One of the big things that I would like to introduce here is Roundtable. Now don't change, don't jump away. Don't be afraid. It's not that bad, okay? Let's find out if you need to go to Roundtable. There's a simple 10-question survey on a video that I did, and I want you to check it out. So if you got the guts, definitely check out the video right there on Roundtable. Till next time, I'll see you on the trail.